Good morning. Good. Welcome to Horizon Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Liz Bebo, and I've been a member and friend of the church for 18 years. As Unitarian Universalists, we are called to gather in worship to practice what it means to be human. We are called to bring a teaching of hope, to bring a saving message, to welcome all in our doors, the joyful, the heartbroken, atheists and Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, and Buddhists, people of faith and people who claim no faith, straight and gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, all who are searching, seeking, looking for more. More meaning, more service, more love. All of us gathered here together to practice what it means to be human. We offer a special welcome to our visitors. Please join us after the service for coffee and conversation in Fellowship Hall. This morning, we welcome back Reverend Dr. Aija to our pulpit. She was our intern just before the pandemic, and now she is a UU minister helping area churches. Welcome, Reverend Aija.
Thank you so much. So good to be here with you. I want to start with the call to worship, and I invite you to listen and calm your spirits and enter into the time together. Gretchen Haley's words. Every little thing that breaks your heart is welcome here. We'll make space for it. Give it its due time and praise for the wanting it represents. The longing for something more, some healing hope that remains not yet. We promise no magic, no making it all better, but offer only this circle of trust, this human community that remembers, though imperfectly, that sings and prays, though sometimes awkwardly, this gathering that loves, though not yet enough, we're still practicing. After all, still learning, still in need of help and partners, still becoming able to receive all this beauty and all these gifts we each bring. Come, let us worship together. We will begin by lighting our chalice, and Liz will help me. Chalice is a symbol of both the heritage of our past and the light of hope within this church today for tomorrow. Our goal as UUs is not to love what is easy or what is safe or what is already lovable. Our goal is to love the world into a better place, which is to say, to love fairly in unfair moments, to love the weak in strong ways, to love the troubled back to health. And for this kind of love, we light our chalice. So I invite you to all rise and join me in saying our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of our church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together. Remain standing and join in the opening hymn, which is 131, Love Will Guide Us, if you would like to look up in your hymnals, the gray ones. But we will have words up there.
Love will guide us, peace and strife. There we go. I was going to say, before we invite the young and young at heart up, I just wanted to draw your attention to this announcement about MetroCrest Services, with whom we partner to make a difference in the local community. They're having a Hearts for Hygiene challenge, and I invite you to read that and bring donations. And if you've brought donations today, as the children come forward or the young people come forward, please pass them to the aisles, and I'll ask the folks, our young people, to put them here. So I would like to invite the kids up for a story. Yeah, look at all those donations coming. That's great. Well, hello. I'm so glad to see all of you this morning. So let me ask you all, did you go to a Valentine's party last week? Yeah, did you make Valentines too? Yeah, well, I have a story today that happened at another Unitarian Universalist church when they had their Valentine's party. So there was recently a Valentine's party at a Unitarian Universalist congregation. Everyone was encouraged to make a heart, like we all do, right? They were given some construction paper, glue, scissors, ribbon, and all those kinds of things to make their heart. There was a girl named Emily, and Emily worked very, very hard to make the most perfect, beautiful heart she could. And you know what? I just happened to have one kind of like it. Look at that. I love you. Everything we do in Unitarian Universalism has two U's in it for Unitarian Universalist. She even put glitter on it. Can you all see the glitter on the outside? Yeah, it's glitter glue. And she was there afterwards, and she was helping cleaning up, and she noticed one woman who was the same age as her grandmother sitting at a nearby table. She had a heart, and it was a mishmash like this. And Reverend Aija brought a mishmash heart too. It was a mess, kind of, don't you think? I mean, look, parts were wrinkled, coming off, and you probably can't see it, but there's a hole in it too. It's covered up by another part. And thinking there was something wrong, Emily offered to help the woman fix her heart. But the woman merely smiled and explained, "There's nothing wrong with my heart." It merely revealed all the things which had happened to her in her life. She said there were happy times here. There were beautiful colors and designs represented when she first met her husband. Then there were other beautiful parts too, which stood for watching her children take their first steps on their own, riding a bike for the first time on their own, and then all the way to graduating from college. But what are all like the rips and tears and wrinkles? Emily asked. Why are they there? These were for the sad times, the woman responded. The time her best friend had COVID, and the time someone lied or did something that hurt her feelings. And this hole back here, it was left by someone, by her husband when he passed away. In fact, every time a person comes into my life, I care about, she explained, they take a piece of my heart with them. This was kind of distressing for Emily, thinking that this woman had to give her heart away to others. But what happens when you give it all away, she asked. You'll be left with nothing. Oh, no, I won't, said the woman, because you see, they gave me a piece of their heart as well. Emily looked down at her beautiful heart with the glitter, the gems, and the designs that she worked so hard to create. Then she looked again at the woman's mishmash heart with the jagged colors, the rips, the wrinkle, and the hole. And without hesitation, Emily took a part of her heart and she gave it to the woman, and the woman put it on her heart. Thank you, said the woman as she placed it with her mishmash heart. And she took a part of her heart and she gave it to Emily to put on hers. So, in your seats, and actually, can I ask you to sit with your families again, because there's something special you're going to do before we leave for class. I hope that you'll notice that there are baskets with pens and hearts. And what we're going to ask, Reverend Aija and I are going to ask today, is to write something about what's on your heart. And so you don't need to put your name on it. Just write maybe it's a happy thing, maybe it's a sad thing. And you're going to put these in the baskets when the ushers come by. And the ushers are going to be putting them on that bulletin board. And as you leave service today, you can see what's on each other's hearts. So go ahead, tell us a happy thing, a sad thing, something that's on your heart, and put it in the basket. We're going to give you just a minute to do that before we sing our kids out. And yes, you may draw a picture if you need to, if you can't spell the words. All right, so if the adult family members can hold on to the heart that your child created and put it in the offertory basket when it comes around later, we'll put that heart up on the bulletin board. So at this time, let's go ahead and sing out the children, and thank you so much for listening.
So this is the time for the offering. When we give, we say yes to something we value. And with these gifts that are freely given, we say yes to the values of our faith. May this giving today, which is going to go to Sunrise Movement Dallas, help us practice our faith within and beyond this church. Your offering is gratefully received.
Du l'Ecclesia nella Passecaia, du l'Ecclesia nella Passecaia, Caia nella Passecaia, nella Passecaia, du l'Ecclesia nella Passecaia, du l'Ecclesia nella Passecaia, Caia nella Passecaia. Caia nella Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia nella Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia nella Passecaia, Caia nella Passecaia, Caia nella Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia nella Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia nella Passecaia. Caia nella Passecaia, Caia nella Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia nella Passecaia, tu l'Ecclesia nella Passecaia, Caia nella Passecaia, Caia nella Passecaia.
If any of you are wondering what they were singing, the words translate as, "Be still my heart, for even here I am at home." Maybe with not even, here I am at home. So I offer you the first reading, which is written by James Crew, and it's a poem that he titled Self-Compassion. My friend and I snickered the first time we heard the meditation teacher, a grown man, call himself Honey, with a hand placed over his heart to illustrate how we too might become more gentle with ourselves and our runaway minds. It's been years since we sat with legs twisted on cushions, holding back our laughter, but today, I found myself crouched on the floor again, not meditating exactly, just agreeing to be still. Saying honey to myself each time I thought about my husband splayed on the couch with aching joints and fever from a tick bite. What if he never gets better? Or considered the threat of more wildfires and the possible collapse of the Gulf Stream, then remembered that in a few more minutes, I'd have to climb down to the cellar and empty the bucket I placed beneath a leaky pipe that can't be fixed until next week. How long do any of us really have before the body begins to break down and empty its mysteries into the air? Oh, honey, I said for once, without a trace of irony or blush of shame. The touch of my hand on my chest, like that of a stranger, was oddly comforting in spite of the facts. We will take a moment of meditation, prayer, and silence to consider our lives and our cares and extend our compassion and love to one another. You may join me in prayer, or you may meditate or practice silence, whatever is your practice. If you feel comfortable, you may close your eyes or just let them rest. Breathe with me. If you would like, you can place your hand on your chest to feel your heart. We turn inward and ponder the essence of goodness that we have inside of us. The possibility, the mystery of unveiling truth, the light that goes by many names. We turn to one another and hold one another in care and support. We are grateful for this time and the people here in this community, for the care they show and the renewal we find. We seek a reminder that we are often larger than the worries and doubts and fears that cross our path. That our response, especially when it is in concert with the people around us, enables us to do greatness. With the help of others, we can know the joys of celebrations, the sorrow of separations and heartaches. Our lives are more because of this time and these people. So today, we lift up a few things that we are sending our cares for. We lift up people who were affected by Michigan State University this week. We lift up people in Ukraine, because tomorrow marks 1 year since the invasion, and they're still fighting. We lift up Audrey's family and one another as we grieve this loss in our community. And we lift up two more in our community. We lift up Beth's family, Beth Blake Hedge. Her aunt Susan had a very bad stroke on Valentine's Day. And it was not sure if she will make it, but it looks like maybe she is going to recover, and we're going to hope that with you, Beth. And this morning, Jaina Wertheim died. Jana and Marty have been a longtime members of this community, and Jana had lived with Alzheimer's for quite some time. And so Marty is not here today because she died. So let us breathe together in quiet and pray the prayers of our hearts. And I will end this moment of silence with the sound of the bell. So I will light the flame candle for Jane, for Audrey, and Aunt Susan. And one more, for those concerns and joys that we have not spoken out loud, but we still carry in our hearts. May we know and be reminded of that we are connected to one another, that what affects one affects us all. If you would remain seated and join in singing the hymn number 95, There Is More Love Somewhere.
Till I find
Our second reading is Meditation on Broken Hearts by Thomas Rhodes. Let us enter into a time of meditation, contemplation, and listen to your heartbeat. Listen to your heart. And how is it with your heart? Does your heart feel whole, shielded by intellect, cocooned by reason, closed to feeling? Or is it broken, fragile to the touch, brimming with the pain of loss? Or has your heart been broken and healed so many times that it now lies open to the world, knowing that true growth comes not without pain, that tears may wear down barriers, that we may carry the hearts of others, even when our own is too heavy for us to bear? None of us has an unblemished heart, not one. For such perfection can be found only in death, and we who are alive still have much to heal. So let us give thanks for the broken places in our hearts and in our lives, for it is only through such brokenness that we may truly touch one another, and only through touching one another that the world may be healed. Let us give then thanks for the brokenness that we share.
Well, I have another story for you. There was once a village that found itself in a pickle. Their mayor had died, and they had to choose their next mayor. How to choose one? What qualities to look for? Would they look for someone strong or brave? Would they look for someone with lots of education and degrees? Or someone with good numbers? One of the smallest villagers came forward and said that they believed that the mayor was so great and so loved because the mayor loved them. In every decision made, people knew they were loved. Everyone agreed with that. So a decision was made to look for a leader who would have the best heart, indeed, a perfect heart. How would they find such a person? Well, they discussed and decided to gather empirical evidence, kind of like UUs would do that too, right? They acquired an atrial nuclear magnetic resonance imaging machine. Don't ask me what that is, but it takes pictures of people's hearts, and then they were examining what they were seeing. Many hearts came into view, but none of them appeared to be perfect. Some seemed too small, some too big to be able to make harder decisions that required a delicate touch. Some seemed tough from over-exercising. Some too fiery hot, indicating they might be too passionate. But most were torn and mended and patched together. For 2.5 days, I'm hearing, everyone hear me? You can hear me? A little bit up, maybe, so that it's easier. For 2.5 days, people filed, this is much better, so sorry. I can hear it. For 2.5 days, people filed past the monitor, and almost every heart in the village got tested. And then a stranger walked in a village. He smiled boldly and confidently. "I have heard of your contest," he said, "and I am here to claim the prize because I have the most perfect heart in all the land. Well, some in the crowd rolled their eyes. It's not like this is the first time they heard something like that. So when the stranger stood in front of the machine, no one was expecting to see the image that came into view. A perfectly shaped, perfectly sized heart in perfect condition. Murmuring erupted everywhere, whispers and gasps. No one could deny his heart was in perfect condition. But somehow something seemed wrong. There was something that didn't feel right, even though they couldn't put a finger on it. A woman stood up and got their attention. People knew her as the woman at the well. She said, "I believe we have not found one who has a perfect heart. We simply have found someone whose heart has never been broken. A perfect heart is more than that." She stepped in front of the machine, and all at once a roar came over the crowd. The woman's heart, which appeared on the monitor, was not perfect at all. Although it was beating strongly, it was more riddled with scars, rips, and tears than any other heart in the village. There were places where pieces were missing, lots of places where pieces seemed lumped onto the side. It was a funny hodgepodge patchwork heart. As it turned out, the stranger had taken lots of care to protect his heart, always choosing a path to avoid regrets and disappointments. The woman, however, had taken risks and opened her heart to people, not knowing what would happen. Sometimes people moved away. Sometimes people and pets got sick, and some of them died. And she stayed with them even if it hurt deeply. She risked losing friends because she stood up for people who were treated badly, because they were a different color or spoke a different language, or because they were gay or trans. And her heart did get broken. The scars were there to prove that. And yet, because she loved truly and deeply, her life was a little more worthwhile. The villagers knew they had found their next mayor. What happened to the stranger? Well, as it turns out, he was disappointed. And it was enough of a heartbreak that it became his first scar. He walked over to where everybody else was and began to sing with the rest of them. How is your heart? What is in your heart? We don't have this fancy machine that I can't even repeat without reading to show the picture. So I'm hoping, and I see those hearts in the back. If you see, they're really pretty already displayed. I just can't read up from here to see what is in your hearts today. Thomas Rhodes, in the reading today, writes, he asks, how is it with your heart? Does your heart feel whole, shielded by intellect, cocooned by reason, closed to feeling? Or is it broken, fragile to touch, brimming with the pain of loss? Or has your heart been broken and healed so many times that it now lies open to the world? None of us has an unblemished heart. None of us. We all carry some scars and some wounds. This is part of what it means to be human. Our life brings us joys that make our hearts leap and jump, and it brings us heartaches that breaks our hearts, sometimes shattering it to pieces, that require a long time to heal back. Through our experiences of brokenness, we come to know comfort, meaning and healing, and then we can nurture our capacity for compassion. This week, some of us celebrated birthdays, Valentine's Day, some good news that brought us joy, and then we also ached for the pain and hurt we witnessed or experienced. In addition to so many things we already have been carrying in our hearts, this Monday we had yet another shooting, claiming 3 lives and leaving a few more in critical condition. This time it was in Michigan State University, and according to the Gun Violence Archive, this was the 67th mass shooting this year. We're barely halfway through February, right? 67th this year. There have been a few more since. These numbers are mind-boggling, and my sense of hopelessness is only growing into desperation and outcry for the folks in power to do something that would prevent these tragedies. Our hearts break every time there is yet another shooting incident on the news. 13 days ago, a major 7.8 earthquake struck Turkey and Syria. We continue to watch the efforts to rescue and help those who are affected by it. More than 46,000 people have died in this natural disaster, and many of them died because there was no timely help available. Now people are living on the streets and shelters. They have lost their homes and their livelihoods. And our hearts break as we witness the pain and loss. And also this last week, you lost your administrator a week ago, Audrey, who died unexpectedly. Another loss and grief. And our hearts break. This is why I am here today, to give your minister a break, a breathing room to take care of her own grief over the loss, so that she can be back together and to be fully present to all of you. You see, ministers and leaders are humans too. They too hurt when they experience or witness tragedies, loss, or pain. Henry Nouwen says that the ministers are wounded healers, that because of their experiences of pain and suffering, the ministers are able to help others in their own time of need, in the other's time of need. However, they can do that only if they attend and take care for themselves. They work through their emotions. They grieve the losses that they experience. This is why the ministers do that, so they can return to be there for the congregation, be present, be able to attend to grief and pain that others are carrying. You do not need to worry about your minister. Your minister worries about you. And rest assured, your minister is there for you. You can and please do reach out to your minister for the help with things that you are going through. How do you take care of your heart? What does your heart need at this time? I imagine that some of you might be skeptical about self-care practices. James Crew, who wrote the poem that you heard earlier, in the service, claims that he himself is a recovering cynic and that self-care practices seem silly to him. However, when he wrote the poem the summer after the pandemic first began, he saw everything fall apart, including his husband's health. He was in a place with no choice but to be kind to himself. And in his poem, he urges us to be gentle with ourselves, to practice self-compassion. Our grief and our heartbreaks is a part of how compassion for others work. Every time we hear another person's story, we experience emotions. When we hear happy stories, we rejoice. The stories of good news, the celebrations, the weddings, the birth, new jobs, graduations, the accomplishments, they bring joy to us. And we grieve with others when we witness struggle, loss, and pain. Some of us get overwhelmed with grief and pain. Some of us might have learned to stuff our feelings deep down and avoid talking about them as much as possible. We handle our emotions differently. The psychologists have come up with some terms and concepts to describe how these processes work and where we could run into a dangerous territory. Our emotions, they say, involve a complicated process consisting of an interplay between neocortex and amygdala. So our thinking brain and the part of our brain that stores our emotional memories, that also gives significance to things. There's lots of chemical exchanges going on in this process, but this interplay is what allows us to experience emotions and manage them. The psychologists also have a fancy name calling this interplay emotional intelligence. That's a scientific name for our ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle emotions. The concept first was introduced in the 50s by Abraham Maslow, but then it became popular in the 90s when Daniel Goleman published his book on emotional intelligence and why it can matter more than IQ. Why do we need to attend to our hearts, our emotions? Because sometimes emotions can get us in trouble. I mean, not just the word that comes out that we later regret, but a lot more. They can impact also our mental health. And if you are more the data person, I have a little more data. The CDC data says that about half of Americans will be diagnosed with a mental illness or some kind of diagnosis at some point in their lives. Half of us. One of the mental health illnesses that a lot of us experience, about 10% of Americans experience, is depression. And the depression rates are the highest among young adults, those who are between 18 and 25 years of age. There's one site that I found, and I'm not sure if this is a true information or not, but that site rates the United States as a second most depressed country in the world, only after Ukraine. That's kind of shocking. I'm not sure if it's true. So there might be some other research. I didn't have time to explore how they were adding the numbers up. But it's still, we know the people around us who struggle with mental health. And we do know that our lack of access to care is very troubling. Reverend Kate Landis, who has struggled with mental health issues, writes how love has kept her going. In my life, she says, I have received this big, engulfing, no questions asked love. From old church ladies who winced at my blue hair but loved me anyway. From my, do we have to talk about feelings, little brother? When I was shattered into depressed, weeping shards on the kitchen floor, and he sat beside me. From church board members after I shoved my foot halfway down my throat. From nurses in the psych ward, I am broken yet beloved. In all the moments when I needed love but didn't deserve it, hadn't earned it, couldn't appreciate, love enveloped me, a bounty without end. I saw this bounty in my congregation, fearless, unshakable love for each of this world's broken souls. It's why I fell in love with them. Every Sunday we say, whoever you are, wherever you came from, whoever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. It knocks the wind right out of me. I didn't know the human heart could hold so much love before I met this congregation. What a better place could there be than a faith community, a church like Horizon, where love can go around abundantly to engulf one another. This love is what allows us to reach deeply inside for courage to trust again, to try again and risk loving again, knowing that love is not a fairy tale. Even when we think that maybe our hearts are full and have no room for anything left, we might meet a puppy or a kitten and discover that our hearts do have room for more love. We see a smile on a child's face, and our heart suddenly leaps in joy. Because it is in those moments of honesty and vulnerable sharing of our pain is where compassion is born. Courage to keep on loving, keep on going, and keep on living is found. So, we place our hands on our heart and say, honey. Being gentle to ourselves, practicing self-compassion. And we give thanks for the broken places in our hearts and in our lives. For it is only through such brokenness that we may truly touch one another, and only through touching one another that the world may be healed. Amen. Let's join in our closing hymn. Please rise if you're able. And it is from the Teal Hymnals, 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
When we trust the wisdom in each of us,
we extinguish this flame, but not our commitment to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. This we carry in our hearts until we are together again. This we do so that we become a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world.
May love guide us from sunrise on into the night. May hope inside us lead the way to that love that we are seeking. May the words of our mouth, the meditations of our hearts, and the work of our hands make visible our love for each other, our community, and our world. May it be so. Amen.